Greetings to you, ladies and gentlemen. Game Chap and Bertie are here.
Yes.
Yes, indeed, fellows. And I dare say we are now reporting here on a subject which is somewhat outside our usual reporting fare. That is, of course, some mainstream news here, and indeed very serious mainstream news, although with a rather interesting gaming-inspired twist as part of the story. And I dare say we are going to explain exactly what all this is about.
We most certainly are, yes indeed. Now, as you may know, on Wednesday at around 11:30 a.m, gunmen dressed in black and wearing bulletproof vests burst into a building 2 doors down from the offices of Charlie Hebdo, the French satirical publication. The gunmen were armed with AK-47 rifles.
That's right. Now, they asked where to find the correct building and then proceeded to the offices of Charlie Hebdo. Shortly after this, they killed an officer who was posted on security detail. Later, they came across a magazine cartoonist who was leaving the office and forced her to lead them to the offices. She was then made to enter a security code to bypass the heavy security door.
The gunmen's attack came during a lunchtime meeting. Men and women were separated, and the gunmen announced the names of the people they intended to kill, according to a physician who talked to survivors.
Yes, that's right. Now, after carrying out their attack, the gunmen left and fired on police. They also killed a policeman who was on the pavement. The total death toll was 12 people.
Most certainly. Now, there was a strong and defiant response in both France and around the world.
That's right, of course, a very, shall we say, impassioned showing from many people rallying together under the phrase Je suis Charlie, or I am Charlie. Now, this is, of course, a very serious item of mainstream news, fellows, and as said before, we don't usually cover this sort of thing, but the point of interest that may perhaps interest some of you out there is, of course, in the aftermath of these very sad events. Now, 2 of the gunmen responsible for the attack were known as the Kouachi brothers. These men made their way to a print works after the events north of Paris on Friday.
Right, yes, so this is 2 days after the event.
After the shooting, that's right.
Yes, these 2 men had been on the run, presumably, since Wednesday.
That's right.
And had now made their way to this place on Friday. Now, they entered the building armed with assault rifles again, as well as a rocket launcher, and took the owner of the business a hostage.
I see. Now, apparently the owner of the business spotted these gunmen before they arrived, and he told his employee inside the building to hide ahead of time, in other words, to conceal himself before the gunmen arrived.
Yes, as this is rather smart, quick-thinking chap here. He's gone to the employee and said, right, hide, because, there's something going on here, quickly hide. So he's rather smart.
That's right. Now, both men couldn't have hidden, otherwise clearly something would have been amiss when the men entered. Therefore, he was thinking quickly and saying, I'll stay here, you go and conceal yourself.
Most certainly. Now, this employee's name was Lilian Lepere, a 27-year-old graphic designer.
I see.
Now, he went to the back of the building and concealed himself in a cardboard box located under a sink in the upstairs canteen.
My word, that is extraordinary, fellows, indeed.
Well,
So this 27-year-old graphic designer, clearly fearing for his life, was faced with a dilemma of a situation, namely that armed gunmen were about to burst into the very office and premises where he worked on a daily basis. Therefore, clearly he was faced with an immediate decision. How am I to hide? In other words, where do I go to avoid the notice of these gunmen? And in this particular case, he decided the best place to avoid their detection and their notice was in a cardboard box underneath a sink upstairs.
Now, this is quite amazing, because the first thing you think, well, where could one hide? Well, perhaps in the toilets, on the roof, in a cupboard somewhere.
These are all interesting places.
In a basement.
Valid, I think.
Most certainly. But this chap went for a cardboard box underneath the sink. Now, where have we seen this before?
Well, indeed, it certainly does draw questions to the mind as to where this source of inspiration could have come from, because clearly, when you're in such a high-pressure situation, the first thing that comes to mind is not necessarily a cardboard box.
Well, it most certainly isn't. Yet this chap felt that was the way to go. Now, the thing is, he's a graphic designer. He may have played games, but I'm thinking of one particular instance and one particular chap that uses cardboard boxes a lot.
Well, indeed, that's quite right. If we are going to say that there was an inspiration from gaming here, of course we have nothing to prove that, but just to speculate on the matter, then certainly we can say, of course, the character Snake from the series Metal Gear Solid is very famous for doing exactly that. He will hide in cardboard boxes inside those computer games to avoid the detection of guards and other people who are of course looking to discover him.
Well, most certainly, and it's the first time we've seen a gaming element sort of situation here, actually appear in real life.
That's
and
right.
in a very serious issue here. But the thing is, you see, it actually worked.
It's an interesting point, Elroy, and I'm sure just on a brief gaming note, many of you who may have played that series may have perhaps considered and wondered it to yourself, well, this seems almost absurd, hiding inside a cardboard box. Would this really work in real life? Well, it seems, fellows, today we are looking at possible proof that it might just work. Now, during this time, of course, the owner was able to negotiate calmly with the gunmen, offering them coffee, etc., and so forth.
Most certainly, yes, indeed, a very strange situation going on here. No doubt.
Most peculiar.
Well, no doubt the owner had obviously read the news. He knew what was going on.
Yes.
Is fearing for his life, but he's calm here. He's told the other chap to go away. The other chap's used his head there, hiding in a cardboard box.
Most interesting, yes.
Now, as this is going on, a business supplier arrived at around 9 p.m, but the owner was able to persuade the attackers to allow him to leave since he had nothing to do there.
I see.
Consequently, they allowed the supplier to leave, and he did so.
I have to say, yes, indeed, this is certainly a very brave piece of negotiation on the part of the business owner, not only, of course, offering them coffee, dealing with them calmly, but also protecting the life of this other person, this supplier, who he was able to negotiate the release of. Potentially that supplier was walking into a life or death situation, but the quick thinking and collected negotiation of the owner perhaps saved his life on that day.
Well, most certainly, yes, he was very smart there, and credit to him. But
yes.
Meanwhile, the employee was hiding, terrified, inside the cardboard box.
I see, that's most interesting, and of course I understand he was not just hiding inside the cardboard box. This employee, clearly a savvy chap, was also equipped with his mobile phone at the time. Now apparently he was relaying information, as we understand, to both the police and his father by text message.
Most certainly, he was doing this. Initially, he wrote to his father saying, "I'm hidden on the first floor. I think they've killed everyone. Tell the police to intervene."
My goodness.
And then he texts the police tactical information, such as what the gunmen were saying, etc. So this tells us something else.
Yes.
He must have been jolly close to these chaps, these gunmen.
Indeed.
There's no doubt about it. He must have been, because obviously he could hear what they were saying.
That's
so
right.
He's in the box. They're not aware he's there. He's under the sink in this box thing. They're not aware he's even there. He's hearing what they're saying, and he's actually texting, to
the police, basically.
The police, and
That's right.
saying what's going on.
This, of course, is a most unusual circumstance, and as Bertie just observed there, because, of course, he could hear what they're saying, there's no way he could have been, more than just meters away from these gunmen. The sheer feelings of electrifying fear running through his body at the time must have been absolutely inconceivable, hiding inside a box under the sink, knowing that death potentially was just meters away. But in any case, despite being in that precarious situation, he was able to relay tactical information to the police, which no doubt proved very useful as they attempted to locate these two fugitives on the run.
Well, most certainly, and it's quite amazing because we've played the Snake games, Metal Gear games, loads of them, and no doubt lots of you have as well, listening to us, and we've all done that thing where he's in the box and he's just, he's in the box there and the soldiers are walking past and you're thinking to yourself, would this happen in real life? Surely they'd have a look in the box.
That's right.
But there in a real life situation here, and a very serious situation I might add as well.
That's right.
We've got someone hiding in a box and effectively negotiating to actually help the authorities here. It's quite amazing.
Yes, it's a most interesting and unusual circumstance, and of course many times in the game the guard will perhaps walk past the box that Snake, the character, is hiding in, or perhaps he might go, sort of, and say, what is this box here, and show some suspicion towards the box. And I think that's the key here. As long as the chap inside the cardboard box didn't cause any reason for the two gunmen to take any notice of the box, of course he was perfectly still, not moving at all. If you think about it, they wouldn't really have any reason to look inside that box, and I think it was perhaps the principle of hiding in plain sight that the chap was operating on here, and using just that and using his head, he was able to remain completely concealed for the whole time. It really is quite remarkable, I must say.
Well, it is, yes. I mean, the whole thing is on the simple but yet effective.
Exactly. That's the key word, yes.
Yes, and it's always been a bit of a joke with the cardboard box in Snake.
Yes.
And in the Metal Gear games. Certainly no joke here,
No.
but the thing's working.
Indeed, and I don't know, perhaps indeed certain people will be surprised to see this is the first time, to our knowledge, that this tactic has actually been used and reported on by the media to have been effective. Now, of course, the aftermath of the situation was the two brothers eventually emerged from the building at the end of a police standoff. They were killed by officers. Police then drove an armoured car into the building to free Lepere, the graphics designer. He was later reunited with his family at the police headquarters, feeling shocked but okay, according to news sources. So a happy ending for the graphics designer to the tale.
Most certainly, yes, indeed. The graphic designer was smart there, helped by his boss.
That's right.
But yes, certainly, he was said, go and hide. He's gone off there, and that's the first thing that's come into his head. Absolutely amazing story, really.
It really is remarkable.
Directly in games, before now.
I think, indeed, it certainly is an astonishing parallel between the world of games and now perhaps expressing themselves, at least indirectly, in the world of reality. And indeed, certainly, theories that were put to the test for years inside that simulated and just basically play environment have actually proven themselves to be useful and operational in a real-world hostage situation.
Yes.
And this is, of course, what I think makes this so interesting, not only for fans of games, but also, of course, of the general media in general. As I say, the chances and the likelihood of being able to hide in such a box were called into question before, but now we've seen a real-life case, and it really does work.
Well, we have, yes, indeed. And of course, as we said previously, of course, we don't know. We don't have any proof to say that he definitely did think about the game and thought, I could hide in a box.
No.
We don't know that for sure, but it would be absolutely amazing if he did actually think that.
That's right.
But nevertheless, whether he did or whether he didn't, he hid in a box.
That's right, and it certainly does draw parallels to the famous games series, but there you go for it. It was a most interesting situation, and of course still very much mainstream news, so news continues to be reported by the media on this subject, but certainly as regards this chap Lilian Lepere, the graphic designer, a happy ending for him, based on a theory, perhaps unknowingly or knowingly, based on a video game.
Most amazing, absolutely is.
Quite remarkable, I must say. This has been Game Chat and Bertie bringing to you the latest news for those, and indeed do stay tuned. I say we'll no doubt have more interesting gaming news for you soon.
We certainly will.
Yes, indeed, join us in, fellows. Until then.